not union. But let's watch. Let's take a look at what's going on here.
We begin with breaking news on a shooting in New Mexico involving actor Alec Baldwin. Sheriffs say that one person was killed and another was injured when Baldwin fired a prop gun on a movie set. He has not been charged with a crime. He was questioned after yesterday's shooting.
Jesus Christ, bro. They're like taking photos of this dude. What the fuck?
And then he was released. The movie cinematographer, 42-year-old Halyna Hutchins, died in this incident. Director Joel Souza was treated at a hospital for unspecified injuries. Jonathan Bigliotti is following this story. Jonathan, we saw pictures of Alec Baldwin. He's very distraught, we hear. Good morning.
And good morning to you. That's correct. A tragedy and still a mystery. According to Baldwin's spokesperson, the accident occurred when a prop gun with blanks misfired. Sheriffs confirmed the 63-year-old actor was the person who fired the gun. How a movie prop became a deadly weapon is still under investigation this morning.
This is the set of the Western Rust, Thursday afternoon, the scene of the incident marked off by police tape.
By the way, the movie, from what I understand, is literally about an accidental shooting of a rancher.
Alec Baldwin is not only the star, but also the movie's co-producer. That morning, he posted this now deleted Instagram photo of himself in costume with the caption, "Back to in person at the office." Just hours later, he was questioned by sheriffs after shooting a prop gun that injured the film's director Joel Souza and killed director of photography Halyna Hutchins. On Tuesday, Hutchins posted this video saying one of the perks of shooting a Western is you get to ride horses on your day off. Sheriffs say she was airlifted to a hospital where she was pronounced dead. Souza was also taken to a hospital. The circumstances of the incident are under investigation. According to movie set gun safety expert Larry Zanoff, a gun loaded with blanks has gunpowder, but should have no projectiles. Still, he says it's potentially dangerous to be within 20 feet of a prop gun when fired.
Any of that smoke or powder or that muzzle flash that could affect anyone or anything, again, we keep a standoff distance of 20 feet in order for there to be no effect on something that's in front of the muzzle.
This happened to Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee, on the set of Crow as well, by the way. Like, this is not a new thing. This has happened in the past as well. The news of the tragic accident on the set of Alec Baldwin film Rust is Hollywood reeling, but it's not the first devastating accident on a film production. This exact same thing happened to Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee, on the set of Crow, where he was shot and killed by a prop gun, or I guess it's technically not a prop gun. It's like a real gun, but with blanks in it.
Muzzle.
In 1993, actor Brandon Lee was killed on a movie set when he was shot with a gun supposedly loaded with blanks. An autopsy later revealed he was shot by a bullet. And in 1984, actor John Eric Hexum died after he fired a prop Magnum 44 with blanks at his head in a mock game of Russian roulette.
We're always concerned with safety on a television and motion picture set, and that's why there's guidelines to follow.
And detectives are now investigating how firing the prop gun resulted in death and injury, and they're continuing to interview witnesses. Production, meanwhile, on the film has been halted. Gail?
What is this? Props to history?
The IATSE Local 44, which is everyone, props to history. Recently, IATSE Local 44, which is the union that oversees a lot of behind-the-scenes folks on the West Coast, confirmed that the accidental discharge of the firearm on the set of Rust in Santa Fe involved the discharge of a single live cartridge. The types of firearms used...
Isn't it because, like, sometimes they have, like, a dummy round or whatever, and they forget to take it out, like, or they don't know that there's another round in there, like there's a live round in there, and they forget to take it out when they're putting the blanks in?
Used in the filming of Rust, because it is set in the Old West, are what are called single action. They require a manual, mechanical operation to bring each round into firing position, much in the same way that a pump action shotgun requires the pumping action to bring a shotgun shell into battery for it to fire. The revolvers of that period required the cocking of a hammer, which rotated a cylinder which placed a round into firing position. Somehow, a live cartridge ended up on set, a live full-power cartridge. And when the weapon was handed to Alec Baldwin, it was loaded with a live round.
How the fuck? How? Like, it has to be deliberate. Blank and real ammo look exactly the same. Typically, an armorer is responsible for handling all firearm sets on set so that there's no confusion as to who was handling the firearm. From what I understand, like, this is from Robert Evans, but I saw last night that he was talking about how the armorer is oftentimes responsible for accidents like this. Like, the negligence comes from multiple different avenues, but certainly from the armorer. The armorer that they were using was non-unionized labor as well, but I don't know how that normally works. I don't know if they like actually fucking blank versus live rounds. Oh. Yeah, so it's still... So this is the part that's like filled with gunpowder, and this is the bullet, right? Like, this is the projectile that flies out when it gets hit in the back, I guess. Like, when it... And a blank does not have that projectile, so it still has that same pop, same kickback, but it just doesn't... There's no round that fucking flies out of it and hits something. Blanks look very different than regular ammo. The bullet gets stuck in the barrel, then gun is loaded with blanks, but the force of the blank shoots the stuck bullet out like real. If the gun isn't cleaned properly and some dirt or rust gets in the barrel, it can get propelled by the blank and do damage. Now, this is rifle ammo. These are live rounds versus blank rounds on a rifle. They were using, I think, was it a revolver or was it a shotgun? Dirt doesn't kill motherfuckers? Well, you never know. It depends on what kind of projectiles are in there. It could still technically kill someone. Especially fired at close range. And it's all entirely dependent on like the circumstances. So you're not right about that either, but I work with props and firearms for 17 years, and the reason this situation sometimes happens is because... What? Oh, come on, dude. Just like, don't make jokes about that. Christ. I heard the blank was loaded on top of a piece of dummy round lodged in there. Dummy rounds are used for close-up shots of a gun loading. The dummy wasn't taken out properly, so it's just a horrific accident. Better image of a pistol ammo versus a blank. Anyway, let's...
There are pictures from the set of the setup there with the camera where the director and Ms. Hutchins, the director of photography, were standing, and that there was a plexiglass shield there. That plexiglass shield is to protect them from the gases and bits of debris that come out of the barrel of a gun when the discharge of a blank takes place.
I'll be back.
Those blank cartridges do give off heated gases and some bits of what's called wadding. The live cartridge would have gone through that like it wasn't there. This is an unprecedented failure in procedure. I will not associate blame to anybody at this time because it's not my place to do so. That will be up to the Sheriff's Department there in Santa Fe to determine that after their investigation. So please do your best to keep the rumors and speculation to a minimum. This is... This is an absolute tragedy brought on by a culture within the film industry of overwork and cutting corners. The crew recently walked off set as a whole because of 17-hour work days and the inability to even get hotels for people that were too tired to drive home from set. Alec Baldwin himself made a statement about how overworked the crew was. It's pure insanity that this happened. Again, my condolences to the friends and family of Ms. Hutchins, and for a speedy recovery of Mr. Souza. Props to history. Everyone, props to history. Recently, IATSE Local 44, which is the union that oversees a lot of behind-the-scenes folks on the West Coast, confirmed that the accidental discharge of the firearm on the set of Rust in Santa Fe.
Sorry, I'm cold as fuck in here. I had to turn down the AC a little bit and also put on a longer sleeve. Sorry. Okay, so CNN prop masters explain how prop
Police
guns
now
can be
investigating
dangerous.
after actor Alec Baldwin fired a prop gun that killed the cinematographer on his latest film. You see Baldwin here. He was outside the sheriff's office, as you can see, understandably likely shaken after the incident.
For sure. Investigators say Halyna Hutchins was airlifted from the set of Rust, a Western being filmed near Santa Fe. She was pronounced dead at the hospital. The film's director, Joel Souza, also injured. Joining us now to discuss is Marcus Cooley. He's a prop master, production designer who's worked with weapons on movies such as Fast and Furious and Bad Boys. Good to have you on. As we look at this, so many questions, Marcus, but a first one, so folks can understand, blank cartridges, the police statement says that there was a projectile that came out of this guy. Is that normal with the way blanks work?
Not in the sense of what we've seen happen here. There are particles of black powder that typically come out of the firearm once it's been discharged, but not in the sense of what seems to have occurred here.
And what are some of the protocols on set in terms of how close people can be? I mean, these are props. You know, someone who's never spent time on a movie set, I have to say, you think of a prop and you think, well, that can't be a real gun. It can't really harm anybody. And there are also, as I understand it, protocols in place in terms of distancing to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Can you walk us through what is supposed to happen?
Yeah, the industry-wide labor management committee sets forth actually safety bulletin #1 for just about every movie set. It's bulletin #1. There's very strict guidelines on the processes, what we're required to do to make sure these weapons are safe. And to be clear, anything that's called a prop weapon when we're talking about shooting is in fact a real gun. There are some small modifications that have been made for them to be used on the movie sets, but they're still very real. So, you know, we have blanks that we use. There are also dummy rounds, which are used for when we would need to see somebody loading a weapon. But they're inert, so they have no black powder in them. But the safety processes that go through that is typically when we bring a weapon out, we have a big safety meeting with the first AD who's responsible for the safety and management of the set overall. We usually bring in special effects. We bring all the actors. Everyone inspects the gun, talks about exactly what's going to happen, where camera will be when this happens. And we then present the weapon to the talent. We present the weapon to anyone who wants to inspect it. And that's generally to make sure that we see what exactly is going into that firearm. You know, and after a certain amount of time, people do get comfortable on set. The talent trusts us. I've worked with really big name actors that after working so much, they trust what we're giving them has been cleared and it is safe. And we always do that with the first AD, so they trust when we're handing it off. There's no reason for them to check. However, we still go through that process with the first AD to ensure that there's nothing that shouldn't be in that weapon.
Okay. I understand you're at a disadvantage there. All of us are, because we weren't on the set, and there's still many unanswered questions here. But based on your experience, I mean, one of the remarkable details here is that 2 people were injured, one killed and one hospitalized. Can you imagine any circumstances with a prop weapon or a blank round where that could happen, where 2 people, right, could be injured or hit?
Yeah, I mean, there are injuries that do happen from, hot casings from guns when you're working with automatic weapons that come off and people get burned and can be hurt. But in the instance of what we've seen here, I don't see where this would be possible unless the camera was a foot away from the gun, which seems highly unlikely. You mentioned earlier there's strict guidelines on distance and things like that. In particular circumstances, you don't want anyone closer than 20 feet from the point of the muzzle. You don't,
because like even the gunpowder in the range of 20 feet can like actually harm you or even kill you, right? Like even if the blank fires as is in the way that it's supposed to, it can still fuck you up. Because like think about it, chat. I mean, No Country for Old Men has the fucking the cow killing thing that's like it's like highly pressurized air, right? Or is it a nail gun? Whatever it is, like even highly pressurized air itself can just fucking like literally open up a hole in your skull, depending on like no, it wasn't a nail gun. I thought it was an air gun. Whatever it was. The crew of this film had already. It's a piston. Oh, there's a bolt. Oh, okay. There's a spike in it. I did not know that. I thought there was a. I thought it was just. I thought it was just like an air gun. Where like. I mean, it's an air gun, but it's like there's still a projectile that it's using. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Like it's just. That's compressed air can that has a metal rod. It shoots into the cow's head and then retracts it. That's why they had a plexi shield. It's a close-up shot towards the camera, but a bullet will blow through the plexi like it's nothing.
don't want to be completely straight on to camera. We always want to be off axis, so we're never pointing directly at the lens. And in certain cases where we do what's called a lock-off, where the camera is set static. We remove everyone away from the camera, and they do everything wirelessly. So that if something were to happen or anything did come dislodged in the weapon, then nobody would be hurt. In this circumstance, it's speculation, but it's hard to say what exactly happened. But in my experience, no. For two people to be injured in this way, it draws a lot of conclusions, I think, before we've gotten all the facts. But it's a tragedy.
Yeah, certainly raises a number of additional questions. The family of Brandon Lee, who of course died from a gun accident, noting this morning, in their words, quote, "No one should ever be killed by a gun on a film set, period." Were there changes in the industry after his death?
Yeah, Brandon Lee's situation was, similar. It was the lack of awareness and paying attention. I think that it certainly, just like when Sarah Jones was tragically killed in an accident, it always brings awareness and more of a spotlight onto the industry on what safety measures are in place on film sets. Firearm safety is number one. It always has been. Like I mentioned before, it's within our industry, we have an industry-wide safety committee. It's bulletin number one, firearm safety. Situations like this should never, ever happen. Unfortunately, whether it's inexperience, whether it's budgetary issues, whatever it is, it should never, ever have happened.
Talk to us around the issues with prop guns. How do they work? How are they supposed to be kept safe?
Good morning, John. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. Unfortunately, what happened was a tragedy. In the film business, we take extreme caution with any kind of weapons, whether they be rubber prop guns, blank guns, and anything in between. Typically, we will do a safety brief with the cast and crew. We'll introduce the weapon to the cast and crew. We'll let them examine it. We'll explain the safety precautions that go with each type of prop weapon. In this case, it was a blank firing weapon.
Chat, he doesn't work in the film industry as a technical guy who knows how to fucking work a camera, okay? Like, he's just, at the end, he's just a fucking boomer, okay? Chill out. Yeah, the graphics are bad. It's not great. Jesus Christ.
And with that, there are inherent risk. We saw with the Brandon Lee shooting several years ago that prop weapons do have a dangerous factor to them, even though they're a lot safer than using a lot.
Alec Baldwin getting involuntary manslaughter? Fuck no. Abso-fucking-lutely not, dude. You're out of your fucking mind if you think that. First of all, he's like straight up incredibly anti-gun. It's literally not his fault. It's more so the fault of like an armorer or a person who's on a person who like did not fucking do the proper safety checks. And even then I think Alec Baldwin is fucked regardless. Like, dude, you just murdered your director of cinematography. Like, that's it's like that shit will break you, I suspect. But he was also a producer. As a producer of the film, he must hold some responsibility. Guys, having a producer credit on the movie that you're filming is entirely different than like a person who specializes on like the actual production side that is dedicated to making sure that there's safety checks on the gun. It's like, point blank with a blank gun, is it dangerous?
The very fast stream of gas it shoots out of the vent holes can generate contact pressures high enough to damage many soft materials, including of course the human body. So shooting the blank gun with any part of the body in close proximity to it can result in injuries that, in case of little distance between the vent holes and the body parts, can be very serious. Of course, styrofoam is not the strongest material, but it clearly shows the path and shape of the vented jet. To show the effects against something a little more resistant, I got this expired juice brick and tested it against the blank pistol. The gas jet pierced it and blew it open, spraying gas with juice.
No. Well, okay, I want to see what the blank looks
Barrel,
like when you shoot
very
it,
high
not
pressure
the discharge. Oh, he's showing like the discharge alone can be the discharge alone could fucking hurt people. There are two types of vents, and this is a vertical vent. Some blank guns have a horizontal vent that acts more like a real gun.
Firearm on set. Typical prop load will be about 25 to 50% of the gunpowder in an actual projectile load that would be used in a regular weapon. With that in mind, there has to be safe.
Listen, the only way that Alec Baldwin gets into trouble here is if he's like firing it willy-nilly. You know what I mean? That's it. Like, if he was just like casually fucking, messing around with it or something.
Safety precautions. There have to be safety distances, and at some point there was a mishap, and those were not followed.
What can come out of a blank gun? If a prop gun is supposed to only have blanks, how is it then that something could come out of it, a projectile?
Anytime you're dealing with a gunpowder load, which is what's in a prop weapon that fires blanks, you're going to have gas, you're going to have heat, you're going to have air coming out of it. Even though there's no actual physical projectile mounted on the front of that weapon, on the cartridge, there is projectiles that do come out. The powder, the gas, and those can cause physical injury within 25 to 50 feet, depending on the load.
Within 25 to 50 feet, that's actually some distance if you think of a film set and how close people could be behind the camera.
Very true, and that's why we take extreme caution when we...
This is behind the scenes showing the the camera operator and the prop gun. I'm having a hard time understanding how this accident still happens in 2021. It's so close. What the fuck? How do you guys think films are made, bro? Of course it's close. How do you think they capture angles and shit like that? There was a guy who even killed himself with a blank. The This right here isn't even bulletproof glass, by the way. That's just like plexiglass, which could easily get a bullet could easily pierce through. We're not all LA scum, my dude. Not everyone knows how films are made. LA scum. No, the barrier does not protect you in case of a fucking real a bullet. No, those are just like plexiglass shit for the most part. My man said LA scum. Movies are only made in LA, and everyone that works on a movie is actually a mega wealthy celebrity like Alec Baldwin, famously. You know? Blanks versus live rounds.
Hey guys,
Let's look at another difference between like shooting a blank versus shooting a live round. I'm not gonna do a fun little ad break here. I'm just gonna straight up run it. It's the first of the day. We're 15 minutes in. I know I was gonna run it earlier, but I didn't want to because I'm covering the story. It's like, fucking traumatic. So it's top of the hour. There's a 6-second ad break. If you no longer want to see the ad breaks, then all you need to do is subscribe. You can subscribe for $5. You can subscribe for free with a Twitch Prime if you have a Twitch Prime. Okay. There's other methods as well, but as long as you connect your Amazon Prime to your Twitch account, you get one free Prime subscription a month. Okay, here's the ad break now.
And then again, today I'm here with Corey. Corey, thank you very much. Okay, so you literally have almost a decade of dealing with blanks in the reenacting field.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So please, can you take us off on blanks and tell us about them?
Well, the first thing is blanks are dangerous. There's been a lot of instances of people being killed by blanks. So don't ever think you cannot be killed by a blank. You absolutely can. So
not only being killed by blanks
themselves, receiving a shot from a squib load bullet that was propelled by a blank round
but also
fired.
Being killed by contaminating live rounds with blank rounds or blank rounds with live rounds.
Yes, there's been several instances, unfortunately, where people mix those and bad things do happen with those.
I think a lot of that is more in the training aspect of law enforcement or military training and less in reenacting and in Hollywood.
There have been, well, with Hollywood, no, not with Hollywood because they don't use live rounds.
Yeah.
But with reenacting, there have been a couple instances where at a reenactment they'll do a live shoot portion and then they'll go do a reenactment battle.
What the fuck? That's so insane, dude. Like, these motherfuckers are so into like doing reenactments that they like actually end up killing one another because they're doing like live round fire on a fucking reenactment. That's like insane.
Battle, and sometimes the blanks or the live rounds aren't taken out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's not good. When was the last time this happened? Or
I think there was about 2 years ago, I think down south. I think there was an incident that happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 years, that's a pretty good record though for the whole reenacting field in general.
Yeah, it's still a very big concern of ours. That's why at every reenactment, before we do anything, every time in the morning, we always go through and have a safety authenticity check.
Mm-hmm.
The safety check is making sure you check all of your ammunition.
Bro, what is this? I mean, what the fuck? FYI, squib is when a bullet is lodged in the barrel due to a weak powder load in the otherwise live round. Like, these motherfuckers, like, actually get together and do this shit? This is wild to me. No, he's saying there's a live shoot bit, then a reenactment after. Forgot to switch bullets, I understand what is going on. I'm saying that, like, This is wild. This is a wild thing that people apparently do. An absolutely wild thing that people do. If you think this is like a normal thing to do, I don't know what to tell you. Just a bunch of old dudes that like dress up in like World War II gear and then do like reenactments of World War II. What the fuck?
Ammunition pouches, make sure you don't have any live rounds on you at all. So obviously blanks, they don't have a projectile on them. There are some versions of blanks that have wood tips, but you have to have a shredder on those to properly use them. Now they're just meant to have the muzzle flash, the sound of it.
And when you talk about
Wait. If they're doing a World War II reenactment, does that mean that they're like there's a side that is just like Nazis? Like they have Nazi memorabilia like full blown? Dude, that's weird as fuck, dude. Oh, is this Vietnam? I thought they were doing World War II as well. That's a very weird activity for divorced dads to engage in over the weekend. You know what I'm saying? Like,
the shredder, what's that? Is that the muzzle?
Yeah, it's on the muzzle. It's some Swedish foreign one. It's not very common.
I think I've been to a Civil War one. Like,
you don't see it a lot.
Okay.
But obviously with bolt action rifles, you don't need anything special to convert it over to blanks. You just let it shoot. Now the problem or the issue, the difficulties arise when you have semi-automatic rifles because the pressure behind the bullet cycles the action. Well, with blanks, you don't have that. So you have to modify the rifle a little bit, but still, it still has its value, has its live fire function if you choose to live fire it. But you put on what's called a blank fire adapter, BFA. There's a lot of different styles. The military has developed BFAs for pretty much all of their firearms. Hollywood has done it too. There's different types and there's pros and cons to each type.
So you mentioned today something I hadn't thought about is that there's more obtrusive BFAs, which we use in the service, which are more brightly colored, red, yellow. Right. They're stuck on the end of a muzzle. Right. They want
chat. I'm going to get to the AliExpress thread, okay? I'm going to get to the conditions on the set. I'm going to get to all of that, okay? Some of that information is not fully confirmed yet. Calm the fuck down. I want everyone to fully understand the difference between fucking blanks and live rounds before we get there. Can you just hold off? I know I got like 30,000 little producers in here, and I love you all, and I appreciate all of you for wanting to, like, you know, have your take in here. But just, you know, I'm going to get to it. I promise. I already know. I'm aware of it, and we're going to get to it.
Want everybody to see that this is a BFA attached and not a live firearm, so to speak.
Correct.
And then we also have more of the Hollywood or reenacting kind where you don't want something obtrusive and you want something stuck inside the muzzle.
Right.
Okay, explain that. Yeah.
So there's special blank adapters that they're not brightly colored. They're not brightly painted. They may just screw onto the end and you can screw it off, you know. Or with Hollywood, what they do is they actually drill and tap the end of the weapon to take a set screw.
Okay.
Okay. Now the set screws have specific hole sizes drilled in each one to cycle the action because sometimes you need more back pressure to cycle the action with blanks.
Okay. And you were talking about the finickiness of some of this, and we shot some blanks in live rounds today. Mentioned that and some of the issues that we just encountered today with shooting some of your firearms with blanks and live.
Yeah, some of the surplus blanks, the loads are sometimes different, or the weather affect them. That something could get into them and ruin them. Even blanks that are specifically made for reenacting and for Hollywood, sometimes something happens, but most of the time those are more consistent. So specially made blanks for reenacting are generally a little bit more consistent than surplus blanks.
Okay. And you were talking, so some of the surplus stuff you had some German stuff, you had some overseas stuff. What's
what? That's a little sussy. Okay.
The German stuff, that was interesting.
So the German stuff is actually, it was made in the 80s or 90s, if my memory serves me correctly. It's actually mostly plastic, and it's got an aluminum base. This cuts down a lot on the cost, cuts down on the weight. You don't have the price of brass. You can't recycle it or you can't reload it, unfortunately, but it's a lot cheaper.
And it's actually entirely polymer too.
Except for the base, yeah. And I've only found those in 308 commonly, or 7.62 by 51. There have been other calibers made for other countries.
What would you say for people who are concerned about they want as much recoil as possible with blanks to make things feel as legitimate as possible. A lot of people say blanks don't have much recoil to begin with, or much muzzle flash.
That's just something you have to live with, unfortunately, because the more back pressure you put on a gun, the harder it is. The harder it is on the action. We were running some hotter black blanks through the M1 Garand. That was actually, I was a little concerned about that because it was running really, really fast and really hot. The point with blanks is you actually want to dial your blank adapter so it will just barely work, but work consistently. That way you're not putting a lot of stress on these firearms.
You can buy blank cartridges on Proxybid for various lots. They are one of our online supporters, and they really help us get these videos out to you, our audience. We'd really appreciate it if you check them out, maybe even purchase some.
Okay. Okay, so Alex Press, who's been covering the IATSE strikes, has a thread on the matter. Now, this is, again, I want to repeat, not confirmed. This is first and second hand accounts of working conditions that led to Halyna Hutchins' death are flying among the IATSE people, but I haven't confirmed them. Anyone can actually speak to what happened. Feel free to DM or email me if you're in here and you want to talk. Alex is a great person to talk to about this sort of stuff. Can't pretend to know if NerdBot is a reliable source, but this accords with what I've heard. Safety meeting scrapped, crew had walked and been replaced. The gun wasn't checked. As to the very specific unreal allegations being passed around in DMs, those really require confirmation. But according to NerdBot says, according to a source on the production who will remain anonymous but allowed us to run this comment, there had already been issues on set. Source says the entire camera team walked off set earlier in the day due to complaints about safety. Apparently, the union camera crew was replaced with folks from a local film school. No safety meetings, no gun checks. There had already been misfirings. There had already been complaints about safety to production for over a week. Production solution was to start looking for a new camera team who wouldn't complain. It was a really hard choice for them to leave because they really liked Halyna. They're devastated. It was a real gun with allegedly 44 rounds in it. The producers knew and continued to shoot. And the camera crew that walked absolutely blamed them for it. I mean, this seems a little fucking over the top. Don't take this at face value. Okay? There needs to be confirmations before you fucking get... No, I shouldn't have even read that. This is why I don't like fucking reading some of these threads, okay? Like, it's one fucking comment. I know LA Times wrote about it as well, but we don't know yet. There needs to be confirmations. That's a major fucking... that's like a major fucking accusation, okay? It's criminal. Hours before actor Alec Baldwin fatally shot a cinematographer on the New Mexico set of Rust with a prop gun, half a dozen camera crews walked off the set to protest the working conditions. Camera operators and their assistants were frustrated by the conditions surrounding the low-budget film, including complaints of long hours and pay, according to 3 people familiar with the matter who were not authorized to comment. The camera crew showed up for work as expected at 6:30 a.m. Thursday and began gathering up the gear and personal belongings to leave, one knowledgeable crew member told LA Times. Labor trouble had been brewing for days on the dusty set at the Bonanza Creek Ranch near Santa Fe. Shooting began on October 6th, and members of the production said they'd been promised the production would pay for their hotel rooms in Santa Fe. Cinematographer Halyna Hutchins killed by a prop gun just as her career was taking off. Alec on a set of the Alec Baldwin was going to be very famous, a director who worked with her said. But after filming began, the crews were told they instead would be required to make the 50-mile drive from Albuquerque each day rather than stay overnight in nearby Santa Fe. Remember, this directly is in line with demands that workers make. You're saying, what? That's crazy? This is what I've told you guys a million times over. This is the type of shit that Hollywood big budget fucking productions pull on a regular basis. Okay? You're working fucking 14 hours a day. You're working 14 hours a day, sometimes 17 hours a day. Okay? And you are... Hasan groomed me. Hasan, don't abuse us. Also, I'm gay. Lol. What? Dude, you fucking freak, dude. What a deranged psychopath. Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, I can't... I hate being on the internet sometimes. Like, We're just like absolute fucking psychotic motherfuckers who just like write whatever the fuck in the chat. Weirdo. Piece of shit. Anyway. As I was saying, people, most normal internet user, yeah, I know, seriously. So, this is the type of shit they pull off regularly. Imagine, like, you're working 17 hours and then you have a fucking 1 hour drive both ways on top of that. That's 19 fucking hours. You have no time to sleep. No time to sleep whatsoever. It's just absolute fucking garbage work conditions. The cinematographer who was accidentally killed, Halyna Hutchins, had been advocating for safer conditions for her team, said one crew member who was on the set. As the camera crew, new members of the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees spent about an hour assembling their gear at the Bonanza Creek Ranch. Several non-union crew members showed up to replace them, the knowledgeable person said. A member of the producer's staff then ordered the union members to leave the set. She said if they didn't leave, the producers would call security to remove them. Corners were being cut, and they brought in non-union people so they could continue shooting, the knowledgeable person said. There were 2 misfires on the prop gun, and one the previous week, the person said, adding, there was a serious lack of safety meetings on the set. A representative for the production company did not immediately comment. The entire cast and crew had been absolutely devastated by today's tragedy, and we send our deepest condolences to Halyna's family and loved ones. Shooting occurred about 6 hours after the union camera crew left. Baldwin, the film star, who also served as a producer on the film, was apparently rehearsing a scene outside the church, according to 2 knowledgeable people. The scene involved a gunfight that began in the church, and then Baldwin's character was supposed to back out of the church, according to the notes obtained, the production notes obtained. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office said deputies were dispatched to the Bonanza Creek Ranch movie set where filming was underway for the Western Rust after calls to 911 at 1:50 p.m. Baldwin was starring in the movie in addition to serving as one of the producers. No charges have been filed, but the sheriff's office said witnesses continue to be interviewed by detectives. Baldwin said Friday he's fully cooperating with the police investigation into the incident. There are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Halyna Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours, Baldwin wrote on Friday in a series of tweets. Production has been halted. In an email to its members, Local 44 of IATSE, a union that represents the prop makers, said that the shot that killed Hutchins and injured director Joel Souza on Thursday was a live single round. As many of us have already heard, there was an accidental weapon discharge in a production titled Rust being filmed in New Mexico, said the North Hollywood-based Local. A live single round was accidentally fired on set by the principal actor, hitting both the director of photography, Local 600 member Halyna Hutchins, and director Joel Souza. Both were rushed to the hospital. A source close to the time said the union does not know what projectile was in a gun and clarified that live is an industry term that refers to a gun being loaded with some material, such as a blank ready for filming. So they don't. I don't think they mean like there was a fucking real ammo in there. So that's the story thus far. Okay. And why wasn't the union standing up for them for the company to pay the hotels? Do you know how much the influence unions have over this? Wait, what? Why wasn't the union standing up for them for the company to pay for the hotels? Are you here? Are you aware of what's been going on for the past fucking couple weeks now? No, there are unions, except like it doesn't work like that. You can't just, first of all, no matter what happens, the people at fault here wouldn't be the fucking unions. The people at fault here would be the bosses, people that are in charge of like allocating resources to workers having a shortened commute so they can actually get like 2 extra hours of fucking sleep. That is insane to be like, oh, it must be the union's fault. Well, how about the motherfuckers? First of all, the unions are the workers, okay? So the people that are making that demand is literally the workers. Anyway, that's not the question. The question was, how can the unions help with this? I mean, in this situation, better workplace safety conditions. I don't know what else, but quote from an NPR article on the frequency of prop gun deaths. An Associated Press report from 2016 determined that from 1990 until the time of publication, at least 43 people died on the sets in the United States, and more than 150 had been left with life-altering injuries from prop guns. What that does mean then is that the gun had blanks in it when it shouldn't have during rehearsals. Safety failure, yeah. Even when it's a safety failure, like, dudes are working to the fucking bone. Like, that's, again, negligence on behalf more so of the bosses rather than the fucking workers in that situation. The worker is negligent, for sure. But, like, if you're working 17 fucking hours a day and then 2-hour commutes, and you're half falling asleep at 6:30 when you're supposed to be, like, looking at the fucking live rounds, like, I personally think the guy handling the fucking guns should most likely or should definitely get enough fucking sleep. You know what I mean? Have like make sure that the mental acuity is there to be able to adequately deal with the safety issues on fucking set. But maybe I'm just crazy. Yeah, there's already fake news running around, probably. So I want to be as careful as possible. It's but the part of the story that is actually directly tied back to the IATSE conversation is that it's very related to what the crew members have been talking about during the IATSE negotiations. Short turnaround times, long days, cost cutting on labor all lead to dangerous situations. That's 100% true. Okay. The Beyonce member just want to say thank you for covering all this. We deserve better. Yeah. Like this is it's high profile, but there's like low profile shit that goes on a regular basis on these sets, from just abuse to skipping lunch to literally fucking car crashes that workers get into on their way back to a fucking long ass commute 50 miles away just so they can fall asleep on their fucking couch. So, you know, this happens regularly in this grueling industry where, you know, you're being worked to the fucking bone. And you're doing it because you got skin in the game. You love it. You want to make movies. This is your fucking dream your entire life. And then all of a sudden, your dream is snuffed out right in front of your eyes. Like you get fucking killed by a prop gun on a set. It's so devastating. Why are we still using modified real guns as prop guns? Gunsmithing isn't some esoteric art. There are dozens of ways to custom build safe, non-firing firearms, including custom loads for blanks. Probably really expensive. Any chance a disgruntled IATSE member ordered off set, tampered the prop gun? Dude, you are out of your fucking mind, dude. That is an insane thing to... Yeah, dude, yeah. An angry IATSE worker killed another IATSE worker. Like, that's how that works. Like, trying so fucking desperately to, like, bring this back to how the workers are at fault is insane to me. These people are friends with one another, dude. That's like, nuts. IATSE Local 44 is the union for props in the LA Hollywood area. One huge question everyone has whether the props people working people were union or non-union. Also assume there was an armor on set. Yeah. Part of the context of this tragedy is that it's very related to what members have been talking about. On a day before the tragic shooting on the set of Rust movie, a crew member on the film commented on a pro IATSE Instagram video by actor-producer Alec Baldwin complaining about unsafe work hours. I'm literally on the show in New Mexico with him, and the producers on that movie are treating the local crew like fucking dog shit. Absolute dog shit. At the moment, I'm fighting to get my crew on this movie Hotel rooms. Oh yeah, we already confirmed this with LA Times as well. Hotel rooms when we go long or too tired to drive an hour back from location to Albuquerque, they either say no or offer a garbage roadside motel that's used as a homeless shelter. In fact, the line producer on the flick complained the motel she booked charges her $10 more per night than the homeless. They haven't even paid a crew a proper check. My B second had to sleep in his fucking car. My B second had to sleep in his fucking car on Sunday night because they won't give him a room and he was too tired to drive the hour home. Nobody on any production should have to sleep in the cold in their car at base camp to not die driving home. Adrienne already have called my BA and he's fully involved. The show keeps arguing they don't have to do anything because contract minimums don't force them to. In fact, in the low budget agreement, a hotel doesn't need to be provided until 14 worked hours, and this show's doing hour lunches, so it requires a 15-hour elapsed day before they will volunteer a hotel. Remember, they will never do this unless you fight for it, because they will cut the costs in any capacity they can, unless you literally fucking fight for it. And that's the only way that you can do it, through, filing grievances and like through a union. Anyway. SAG-AFTRA has contracts to get them 4-star hotels 20 minutes from set for productions. Alec Baldwin, are these still available? Asking for a movie producer? What? I'm going to make bright banana yellow t-shirts that read "My hands are up, please don't shoot me, who wants one?" Dude. So I saw these old tweets, like I saw them last night, and at first I was gonna fucking meme about it, but then I was like, dude, someone fucking died, dude. Like he's at fault for the workplace conditions, right? To a certain degree. I mean, I don't know what his level of involvement is, considering he was a producer.